There is a special kind of silence that surrounds a child who has grown up too fast. It's not the peaceful quiet of sleep, nor the focused hush of concentration. It's a heavy, watchful silence. A silence that has absorbed too many whispered arguments behind closed doors, too many unspoken fears, too many adult worries that slipped out and found a home in a young heart. This child's eyes are older than their years. They don't just look, they assess. They don't just listen, they interpret. Their laughter, when it comes, is often a brief, startling sound, quickly swallowed back by that profound silence. This is the child who had their childhood quietly but forcefully taken from them. They didn't cross the bridge to adulthood. They were thrown across the chasm, forced to learn mid-air how to land. Today, we speak about these old, young souls. Why does it happen? What storms rage inside them? And crucially, can we ever help them find their way back to the shore of a childhood they never fully had? We begin in the shadows. Picture a home where a parent is chronically ill, or battling addiction, or consumed by depression. Picture financial ruin hanging in the air like a sour smell. Picture divorce, not as a civil discussion, but as a war fought in the living room. In these environments, a role becomes vacant. The role of the emotional caretaker, the peacemaker, the little adult. And a child, out of sheer survival instinct and boundless, desperate love, steps in to fill it. They learn to read moods like weather forecasts. They make simple meals. They soothe younger siblings, assuring them that everything is okay, while secretly scanning the horizon for the next storm. This is parentification, a reversal of roles where the child provides emotional or practical support to the parent. It's one of the primary engines of forced maturation. Their inner world is a paradox. It is both incredibly sophisticated and tragically underdeveloped. On one hand, they possess an emotional intelligence that can feel almost psychic. They sense tension before a word is spoken. They master the art of de-escalation, of saying the right thing to calm a troubled parent. They might develop a sharp, witty cynicism as a shield, but this advanced emotional software runs on a hardware that is still meant for playdates and picture books. The core developmental needs, unconditional security, the freedom to be silly, to make mistakes without catastrophic consequences, to be carelessly selfish, go unmet. What they experience is a profound, often unnamed grief. They grieve for the childhood they see other children having. They grieve for the parent they needed but never had. They grieve for their own innocence, lost in the trenches of domestic responsibility. This grief doesn't look like crying. It often looks like stoicism. It looks like a 10-year-old thoughtfully discussing insurance policies or medication schedules. It looks like a teenager who never rebels because they understand too well the fragility of the ecosystem at home. Their play, if it exists, is functional. They don't build Lego castles for fun. They build them to create a world they can control, a miniature kingdom where they are finally the architect of stability. So why do some children accelerate into adulthood while others remain in the blissful slow lane? It is never a choice. It is a brilliant, heartbreaking adaptation to an unstable environment. Psychologists call it a survival strategy. When the primary caregivers are unreliable, the child's brain does something remarkable. It bypasses its own developmental programming. The drive for attachment and safety is so powerful that the child will morph themselves into whatever figure is missing just to maintain a semblance of connection and order. Trauma is a frequent catalyst. The death of a parent, a serious accident, living through a natural disaster, these events can shatter the illusion of a safe world overnight. The child realizes, with terrifying clarity, that adults are not all-powerful protectors, that life is fragile, and with that realization comes a vow, silent but ironclad. I must become strong. I must never be this vulnerable again. They trade trust for vigilance. They exchange spontaneity for control. Academic overachievement can become another form of this. A child pushing themselves to be perfect, to be the good one, to bring home stellar report cards as an offering to stabilize a wobbly family system. It's a bid for love and security through exceptional performance. The consequences of this stolen childhood stretch far into adulthood. The first and most poignant, it's chronic relationship anxiety. As adults, they often become fixers or caretakers, drawn to partners who need them, recreating the familiar dynamics of their youth. They struggle to receive love passively. They only feel valuable when they are doing something, solving something. The concept of being loved simply for who they are feels foreign and suspicious. Emotional burnout hits early. They've been running on the high-octane fuel of crisis management since they were small. By their 20s or 30s, they are often profoundly tired, yet unable to rest, haunted by a sense of impending doom if they let their guard down. Perfectionism becomes a cruel taskmaster, leading to anxiety and a deep fear of failure. Perhaps most painfully, they often experience a muted, grayed-out emotional life. They became experts at managing others' emotions, but never learned to fully feel and process their own. Joy feels shallow, sadness feels dangerous, and anger feels terrifyingly destructive. Now let's hold two images side by side. In one, a child of 8 is on the floor, deeply immersed in a battle between action figures. The stakes are imaginary, the outcome irrelevant. The room is filled with the sound of made-up explosions and gleeful laughter. This child exists fully in the present moment, secure in the knowledge that their basic needs for food, safety, love are met by invisible, loving hands. In the other image, a child of the same age is sitting at a kitchen table, a calculator and a stack of bills nearby. They are carefully planning the grocery list for the week, factoring in a tight budget. They are thinking about whether their mother will be too tired to cook after her second job. They are mentally scheduling when they need to pick up their younger brother from daycare. Their brow is slightly furrowed. They are not in the present. They are in the precarious future, trying to navigate it with a map they never asked for. The first child is building neural pathways for creativity, risk-taking in a safe space, and social play. The second is building pathways for hypervigilance, logistical planning, and emotional containment. Both are intelligent, both are adapting, but only one is free. What does the old-souled child feel? Beneath the competent exterior, there is often a simmering, inarticulate resentment. It's not directed at anyone specifically. It's a diffuse sense of injustice. They see their peers complaining about not getting the latest video game, and a part of them wants to scream. You have no idea what a real problem is. They feel alien, marooned on an island of responsibility, while watching other children sail by on boats of frivolity. There is a deep loneliness. Who can they talk to? Their peers wouldn't understand. Telling an adult might feel like a betrayal of their family or an admission of a weakness they've been trained never to show. So they become islands. They feel a confusing mix of pride and shame. Pride in their capability, in being the rock, and a corrosive shame that perhaps they were only loved for this utility, not for their own messy, childish self. And there is envy, a pure, painful green envy of simple joys. The envy is so sharp, it can feel like a physical ache. It's the longing to trade their acute understanding of mortgage rates for the blissful ignorance of not knowing what a mortgage even is. The psychologist Alice Miller wrote piercingly about this in her book, The Drama of the Gifted Child. Often we're faced with patients who have been praised and admired for their talents and their achievements. But behind all this glory lay the tragedy of a child who had been unable to develop their true self. This giftedness is often the polished surface of premature adulthood. So how do we help? The journey back is delicate. It begins not with pushing them to be childish, but with a profound, silent recognition. If you're a parent, teacher, or caring adult in such a child's life, the first step is to see them. See the adult burden they carry. Acknowledge it, not with pity, but with respect. You might say, "I see how hard you work to help your family. That is incredibly responsible of you. But I also want you to know that it's not your job to carry all of this. My job is to help carry you." Create pockets of unstructured, non-goal-oriented time. For a child used to performance, simply being is a skill they must relearn. It might feel awkward at first. Don't force play. Model silliness. Be intentionally, safely irresponsible. Have a food fight. Watch a silly movie and laugh too loudly. Show them that not every space needs to be a space of high stakes and consequence. The goal is to demonstrate that the world will not collapse if for one afternoon they are not the one holding it together. Your language is crucial. Avoid loading them with more adult information. Instead of venting about work or money, filter. Use phrases that rebuild the proper hierarchy. That's a grown-up problem and I'm handling it. Your job is to be a kid. Give them explicit permission to be immature. You know, it's totally okay if you just want to build a blanket fort and hide in there with some comics. In fact, I think that's a brilliant idea for today. Set boundaries that protect them from themselves. If they constantly try to care for you, gently refuse. "Thank you for worrying about me, but I'm the parent. I'm okay. I want you to tell me about your day, your friends, your silly thoughts." Redirect the caregiving impulse back onto them. Ask them what they need. This will feel foreign to them. Be patient. Provide concrete, age-appropriate tasks that give them a sense of contribution without the weight of the world. Your job is to water the plants and tell me a joke at dinner. This honors their need for responsibility, but frames it within safe, manageable limits. Contrast this with the implicit, overwhelming task they had before. Your job is to make sure mom doesn't get sad and the household doesn't fall apart. Let me give you a real-life example, with names changed. Anna was 11 when her father left. Her mother, shattered, retreated into a deep depression. Anna, the eldest, became the CEO of the household. She woke her younger brother for school, signed permission slips, and negotiated with bill collectors on the phone, deepening her voice to sound older. At school, she was a model student, but teachers noted she never played at recess. She just stood and watched, a tiny supervisor. A perceptive school counselor noticed she didn't confront Anna with, "You should play." Instead, she started a lunch bunch club for drawing comics. No pressure to talk, just a quiet space to create. Slowly, she began giving Anna small, whimsical tasks. "Can you draw the silliest monster you can imagine for our wall?" She was reintroducing the concept of fun as an assignment. She also contacted Anna's mother and with great compassion connected her with therapy and support, slowly lifting the adult burden from Anna's shoulders. It took years, but Anna later said, "The lunch bunch was the first time I remember my brain being quiet. I wasn't planning or worrying. I was just choosing what color to make the monster's fur." Literature has long grappled with this archetype. One of the most perfect descriptions comes from J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye, through the eyes of Holden Caulfield, himself a prematurely aged adolescent. Certain things, they should stay the way they are. You ought to be able to stick them in one of those big glass cases and just leave them alone. I know that's impossible, but it's too bad anyway. The child forced to grow up fast is precisely the one who most desperately wants to preserve innocence in others, in their siblings, in the world, because they have lost their own. They become the would-be catchers in the rye, trying to save others from the fall they themselves have already taken. Another powerful voice is that of psychologist Dr. Jonice Webb, who specializes in childhood emotional neglect. She writes, "When a child is forced to be a parent to their own parent, the child's emotions are systematically ignored, invalidated, or suppressed. As an adult, this person may feel alienated, empty, or as if something fundamental is missing without knowing why. This names the core wound, the invalidation of their own emotional reality in service of managing an adult's." Neuroscience sheds light on the cost. Chronic stress in childhood, the kind that forces early maturation, can lead to elevated levels of cortisol. Over time, this can affect the developing brain, particularly the prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, and the amygdala, the fear center. The result? A brain wired for threat detection and control, often at the expense of creativity, flexible thinking, and calm. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, in his seminal work, The Body Keeps the Score, explains how trauma forces the body and mind into a constant state of defense, leaving little energy for the joyful, exploratory pursuits of normal childhood. Developmental psychologist Nima Mori notes that parentified children often exhibit role confusion that persists into adulthood. They are experts at reading a room, but novices at understanding their own internal landscape. This is why therapeutic approaches often focus on reparenting, helping the individual learn to identify, validate, and nurture their own emotional needs, essentially giving their inner child the care it was denied. Many public figures have courageously shared their experiences of premature adulthood, helping to destigmatize it. Actress Emma Watson once spoke about feeling like an adult since she was a child, citing her parents' divorce and her early career. "I had a kind of existential crisis when I turned 20. I realized I had never really had a teenage experience. I had been working and being the responsible one for so long." Musician Billie Eilish's early lyrics often echo the world weariness and hyper-awareness of a child who saw too much too soon, singing about burdens and depressive states with an insight that belied her years. Comedian Tig Notaro, after a series of profound tragedies, including the death of her mother, channeled her grief into stark, minimalist comedy, embodying the dark humor and emotional precision that often comes from surviving life's hardest blows early on. Perhaps most poignant is the story of author J.K. Rowling, who was a young, single mother on welfare, battling depression. She has described that period as one of immense pressure and fear, but also where she was fiercely determined to build a future for her daughter. The hyper-responsibility and escape into a rich inner world directly fueled the creation of Harry Potter, an orphan forced into a dismal, adult-like existence who discovers a magical world where he can finally belong and be a hero. A beautiful, heartbreaking cinematic contrast can be found in the film Bridge to Terabithia. The protagonist, Jess Aarons, is a boy from a poor, emotionally strained farming family. He is burdened by chores, bullied at school, and feels unseen by his parents. He is in many ways on the path to premature adulthood, serious, artistic, but suppressed, carrying weight. Then he meets Leslie Burke. Leslie is his opposite, wildly imaginative, emotionally expressive, fearless, and free. She comes from a stable, intellectual home. She invites Jess to play. Not just play, but to co-create an entire imaginary kingdom, Terabithia. This friendship is a lifeline back to childhood for Jess. Through Leslie, he experiences unconditional acceptance, creative abandon, and the pure joy of being a kid. The film tragically underscores the fragility of this bridge back to innocence, but its message is clear. Connection with a free spirit can be a powerful antidote to forced maturity. Leslie's gift to Jess wasn't a place, it was permission to imagine, to feel, to be young. For the adult wanting to help, introduce rituals of care that are simple and repetitive. A weekly pajama Sunday with pancakes and cartoons. A nightly check-in that isn't about problems, but about one rose and one thorn from the day, focusing on small feelings. The repetition builds a new neural pathway, a pathway that says, in this space, at this time, you are safe to just exist. Physical safety is key, A child who grew up in emotional chaos needs to experience predictable physical calm. Rocking chairs, weighted blankets, consistent routines, calming music, these aren't indulgences. They are medicines for a nervous system that's been on high alert. Teach them simple mindfulness or breathing exercises, framing it as a superpower to calm your busy brain, not as a fix for something broken. Most importantly, apologize if you are the parent who contributed to this dynamic. It is one of the most healing acts possible. I am so sorry that you had to worry about grown-up things when you were little. That was my job, and I wasn't able to do it well enough. It was never your responsibility. I'm working on it now, and I want you to have the childhood you deserve from here on out. This validates their reality and begins to dissolve the shame. Sometimes, the wounds are too deep for even the most loving family to heal alone. Therapy is not a sign of failure. It is an act of reclamation. A skilled therapist, especially one trained in play therapy for younger children or internal family systems and trauma-informed therapy for adolescents and adults, can be a guide on the journey back. In therapy, the individual can finally lay down the burden of the parentified child role in a safe, confidential space. They can begin to separate their authentic self from the survival self they created. They can grieve the childhood they lost. They can learn, often for the first time, to identify basic emotions in their body. This is what anger feels like. This is what sadness feels like, and it is safe to feel it here. Group therapy with peers who have had similar experiences can be incredibly powerful. It shatters the isolation. Hearing another person say, "I also felt like the family therapist at age 9, is profoundly normalizing. It tells them, you were not alone in this. Your reaction was a normal response to an abnormal situation. Schools are often the front line where these children are either further burdened or potentially saved. A teacher who simply says, "I notice you're very serious. Is everything okay?" can open a door. Schools can provide structure and predictability that is lacking at home. They can also offer safe havens, art rooms, music programs, libraries, sports teams. These are spaces where the child can experience mastery and joy separate from family drama. A coach who praises effort, not just outcome. A librarian who recommends books about escape and adventure. A music teacher who lets them bang on drums to release pent-up emotion. These are all subtle forms of reparenting by the community. Mentorship programs are gold for these children. A stable, caring adult from outside the family system, a big brother, big sister, a mentor from a community organization, provides a model of healthy adulthood that isn't entangled in family stress. This relationship is pure. It's not about bills or caregiving. It's about sharing interests, having fun, and being seen for one's potential, not one's utility. Now we shift our perspective. We have offered empathy, understanding, and strategies for healing. But let's engage in what some might call a bit of dark psychology. Not to manipulate, but to reframe, to alchemize the pain into power. Because the truth is, the child who grew up too fast is not just wounded. They are also forged. They possess skills that their carefree peers will spend decades trying to cultivate, if they ever do. They have resilience welded into their bones. They have emotional radar that can read a room with uncanny accuracy. They have resourcefulness born from scarcity. They understand the architecture of crisis, which means they can navigate one with a chilling calm when others panic. This is not to glorify their suffering, but to acknowledge the formidable arsenal they have built in the fire. The dark reframe is this: you were not weakened by your early adulthood. You were prematurely armed. While others were learning to play the game, you were learning the rules of survival in the deepest trenches. That knowledge is terrible, but it is also power. The question is no longer, how do I become a child again? But how do I integrate this powerful, weathered general inside me with the playful, innocent child who is still waiting to come out? Imagine your psyche not as a broken child, but as a counsel. Sitting at the table is the wise child, the one who had to grow up fast. They are serious, strategic, observant, and protective. They are the reason you survived. You do not want to fire them. You do not want to silence them. That would be a profound betrayal and would leave you vulnerable. But also at the table, hidden and frightened, is the true child. The one who wants to play, to be silly, to be carefree, to trust. They have been locked in a basement for years for their own safety, protected by the wise child. Healing is not about dethroning the wise child. It's about promoting them. You say, "Wise child, thank you. Your service has been impeccable. You saved us. Because of your incredible work, the crisis is now manageable. I am promoting you from frontline soldier to trusted advisor. Your new role is to stand guard and warn us of real dangers, while I, the adult self, now take executive control. And part of my job is to let the true child out of the basement for supervised play dates." This is integration. You allow the wise child's strengths, foresight, empathy, resilience to inform your adult life, while you consciously create the safety for the true child to experience joy. You schedule play as seriously as you schedule work. So, to the old-souled child, now perhaps an old-souled adult listening, you feel a gap between you and the world. You feel like an observer wearing a human suit. You see people complaining about trivialities and feel a mix of contempt and longing. That gap is not a deficiency. It is your superpower vantage point. You see the machinery of life that others are oblivious to. You understand cause and effect, pain and consequence on a visceral level. This can make you cynical, yes, but it can also make you profoundly compassionate, strategic, and authentic. You don't have time for pretense. You crave depth because you have always lived in the deep end. The dark motivation is this: use your knowledge of the abyss to build castles in the air. You know better than anyone how fragile life can be. So do not hide from that knowledge. Weaponize it. Let it fuel a relentless, fierce commitment to creating beauty, stability, and joy for yourself and for others. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is not to forget the darkness, but to become so skilled at navigating it that you can lead others through it while holding a spark of light that you have learned to protect at all costs. The journey back to childhood is not a regression. It is a reclamation. It is a homecoming to a part of yourself you were forced to abandon. It will feel awkward. Playing will feel like work at first, Trusting will feel like a terrifying risk. Allowing someone to care for you will feel like you're breaking a sacred rule. Do it anyway. Start small. Buy the silly putty. Watch the animated movie. Color outside the lines. Say, "I don't know," without fear. Ask for help. These are acts of rebellion against the tyranny of your premature maturity. They are you planting a flag on the territory of your own life and declaring, "From this moment, I will experience what I was denied," not to erase the past, but to balance the scales. You are not broken. You are bifurcated. And now it is time for a glorious, messy, beautiful integration. Let the old soul and the young heart finally meet. Let them shake hands. And then let them go build a life that honors both the depth of the storm you weathered and the brilliant, resilient light that refused to be extinguished. You didn't get a childhood, so now, with the power and awareness of an adult, you get to design one. That is your right. That is your revenge. That is your return.